video on his channel discuss how schools deal with cost of living and raising in electricity prices. It was quite interesting because he paid attention to the text of from Financial Times, if I remember correctly, where headmasters and head teachers ask parents to foot a bill for electricity because they are not able to deal with increasing costs. So all this negligence from all governments, including the current one, to simply force parents to foot a bill. But because there are some parents who can deal with the crisis better, have a little bit more dispensable income, um, for that reason, the private schools mostly will get extra money, or schools from areas where the parents are a little bit more wealthy. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit more how the private schools are burden on the public purse, and well, they're actually parasites for me. Around 7% kids in United Kingdom study in private schools. Just remember these numbers, this proportion: 7% in private schools, about 93% in public schools, which is publicly funded schools, which is very important. Uh, because, well, for many reasons. One most important for me is private schools are registered, they function as a charities. They are not they do not function as companies. They are charities. And for some reason, and I know why, for example, people in Scotland say they should lose the tax breaks and they should lose their charitable status. 73%, this is a repetition of this data, so I was wondering if actually they are correct, but a couple of newspapers repeated it. These are actually data from UK. About 37% says people say all charity schools should lose all private schools should lose their charitable status, and there are some people who say that they should keep the status, then should be tax exempt only if they help state schools. And actually, I cannot see how they could do it. Yeah, let me know if you have any ideas. So I want to show you numbers how it works. Uh, how it works that private schools are the parasites on public purse and are parasites on our society, in my opinion. So this is the Eton College, for example, one of three most prestigious schools in UK. Their income, this is from last year, is about 90 million, not far away 2 years ago. If you divide this number, this 90 million income, by about 1,400 students, you will have 66,000 per year per student, which is huge amount of money. And you would like to remember this number 66,000 because that will be on this graph somewhere above even my window, because on average private schools have a funding per student about 15,000 ish, less bursaries, but I don't think they should be excluded. About 15,000 per student. State funded schools, it's about 7,000 per annum per one student. So you see this discrepancy, about 6,500 difference between private schools and publicly funded schools. And Eton will be somewhere above, well, much more above here. This is as well graph from quite conservative think tank. So I'm surprised they actually published it. But yeah, they actually confirmed that there is a huge, about 6,000 £6,000 difference between private and public schools, which just about a decade ago it was half of about 3,000 gap. So it shows us how the gap widen and how private schools do better under the charitable status, which I want to show on examples. For example, this is the legacy donation from Eton. This normally would be 40% inheritance tax. Because they Eton work as a charity, they have tax relief. But the tax reliefs goes not only to the charity, not only school gets discount on the tax relief. So this is example. If you give, this is going to this legislation, if you give at least 10% of your legacy, your endowment to the charity, um, this your rate on inheritance tax is 36%, where normally it will be 40,000. So on numbers, it looks roughly like that. If you have 1 million, you give 100,000 to the charity, private schools. You have you have 36% to be paid on on your inheritance, which allows you to save about 40,000 on an inheritance. Actually, I need to check the mathematics. Either that will be this number or this, but at least it allows you to save at least 40,000. I think that will be net, so that will be from, yeah, that will be net from, it will be taxed from here. So, what else? In general, private schools, um, how to say it? As because they have the tax exemption status, they cost us about 3 billions. And I just want to remind you about this proportion. 7% of kids are in private schools. 93% are in public schools, even though it still costs about 3 billions per annum. So no wonder there are parties and people, as well as people who are, well, very motivated to take this tax breaks from charitable schools. So, for example, in Scotland, they lost tax exemption on the business rates. And I remember this discussion was going, this is from April this year, as far as I'm aware. And I remember this discussion was going till 2018 at least, and it was postponed and postponed and postponed. Finally, they lost the status. And one fact is why the private schools are doing so well under consecutive governments, at least under Tories. Well, maybe because they are themselves educated in private schools. 60% of Liz Truss cabinet went to private schools. Under Boris Johnson, it was 65%. Under Theresa May, it was about 34%, 30%. This is the breakdown for all governments. When, on average, for example, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, it was 30%. Under Margaret Thatcher, it was even 90%. Or John Major, he's another Tory PM, it was 70%. So having in mind that, for example, only last year, Rishi Sunak gave to Winchester College about 50,000 pounds as a donation, that should warn us that I don't know anyone who, as a parent or ex-student, alumni could give 50 grand to previous school to fund, I don't know, science laboratory, art school, art workshops. And so that shows you discrepancy why the schools are doing well, why those people who are attracted to the schools they finished where they felt quite privileged, they still donate money. And actually, it's surprising that except SNP in Scotland, for example, Labour Party, but as well Lib Dems, surprise, surprise, I wouldn't expect, promise to scrap to scrap the tax breaks on private schools, which would be good because this money should go to the public education. I don't see why the reason someone is giving services like education and tax exempt, and moreover, it profits only. Well, don't understand me. Don't take it wrong way. I'm really happy that the kids from the private schools are doing well. They have all this money available, and I'm very happy they can do a lot of stuff. But I want to see state-funded kids to be here, at least here. So these are my couple thoughts. At very end, I would like to ask you a question. How is your local school? Maybe your kids are going to school. If you have any information, I will be interested to hear from you. I know the school from my area, so but maybe I can learn something from you. And yeah, thanks once again to Phil for his video for the inspiration. And if you want to catch up with good breakdown of the information, I think this is one of the 3 or 4 channels I will go to. So yeah, really recommend it. Thank you for today. Catch up soon.